We started the day with a 90-minute flight from Chengdu to Lijiang. It was with Lucky Air, so of course it was going to be fine. I do like getting off a plane onto the runway itself. The scenery on the flight was magnificent. Our guide said that before Lijiang got an airport in 1995, the equivalent trip took 3 nights and 2 days on a train. The old town became a UNESCO heritage site and there are now over 10 million tourists per year. This is outside a wonderful hotel. People would come and get their photos taken outside. Those of us staying there, coming and going, must have been quite an inconvenience to them. Nice boots. One of the courtyards in the hotel. Another had a pond. Both the hotel and the room were the best yet. This is how they made the bed, with a duvet along the side. The bathroom was streets ahead of anything else we'd had. To my amusement, there was a box of condoms by the bed. Note the size is given as 52 plus or minus 2 millimeters. Seems very precise. The old town was built over 800 years ago, with narrow stone lanes, canals and small bridges, completely unsuited to motor vehicles. Streets were designed for foot traffic and pack animals, not cars. When tourism began growing after 1995, the government decided to keep vehicles out of the old town to preserve its character. Best decision ever. We got off the bus from the airport at the edge of town. People from the hotel there met us with carts. They took our luggage, pushed it to the hotel, and we walked. This is the same corner, but at night. This was one of the few vehicles I saw, a fire truck I assume. The other was a ute playing an ice cream truck tune. It was a rubbish truck, and on hearing the noise, locals would rush out with their small bags of rubbish to toss on the back. This is a typical cafe diner with very few seats. Charming streets everywhere. This is a cell phone tower with plastic tree branches to hide it on the left. And on the right, I love the curvy rooftops. Many of the streets had a small canal running down one side. I noticed one had electricity cables through it, but that's okay. It had a sign saying, "Don't play water." Just a few of the 10 million tourists per year. Some sights along the way. This is an earring shop predominantly. Flavoured teas, I think. There were a lot of these types of shops. Most had free samples to taste. Handy if you were thirsty from our hilly walk ahead. Fruity ice creams. Lots of different mushrooms. I think this was their local whiskey. You'll be happy here if you like fruit. We did a walk through the town and up to a lookout point. The path up was steep in places, but one of the locals was watching over us. The view from the top was a jigsaw of interlocking rooftops. And you can see where the old town ends and the newer, more modern town begins at the background. Close up of some rooftops. Some on the trip were interested in getting some local tea. We passed a large shop and found the woman in there was an expert on tea. She brought out various teas for us to try, told us their history, how they were grown, and how to prepare them. Now, this was out of the blue. Nothing had been arranged. It was not part of the tour. I think it should be. She spoke good English, with our guide translating the odd technical word. Lijiang sits right on the old Tea Horse Road, centuries-old trade route that connects tea-producing areas in southern Yunnan with Tibet and beyond. Here's the story in short. Since around the 7th or 8th century, continuing into the 20th century, caravans of mules and horses carried tea north, passing through Lijiang, then over the mountains to Shangri-La, Tibet, and even Nepal. On the return trip, traders brought back Tibetan horses, wool, and salt, hence the name tea horse trade. She was a tea expert, not a salesperson, which was very nice. The shop did well out of our group. Note the ashtray on the left for visitors. That night we were on our own for dinner. A few of us went somewhere that had been recommended. We got several dishes to share. This one was yak. The bowl underneath had burning hot coals which kept the meat sizzling. When we got to the bottom there were thick noodles which by then had cooked and absorbed the lovely juices from the meat. It was one of the best meals on the trip. The next day we went to Banshi Old Town, an advertised highlight being some Ming Dynasty, 14th to 17th century frescoes. In our short guided walk, this didn't strike me as being a town, but maybe a few buildings and a couple of gardens. There may have been more to it, but our brief visit was centred around these murals. You could not take photos of them, but there were replicas you could take photos of. In short, I wasn't that impressed, other than that they had survived so long. If you look up in some of the buildings, you can see the interlocking framework. This one reminded me of a spider. If you like flowers, you'll be happy here. There were some cats here. Some didn't look so well. We were then taken to an embroidery school, another shopping opportunity. There was a brief talk about the process, but unfortunately this was not a day that the women, and yes, there were all women, were working. Now, many of these were done by very skilled people, but not really my thing. This is an embroidery of a bowl. I didn't buy anything, but I think 2 or 3 of our group did. Nearby, for a fee, you could hold a baby goat, but it wasn't an ordinary baby goat. They were dressed up, even in a tutu. The highlight of Lijiang, apart from the old town, is Jade Dragon Snow Mountain, considered holy amongst the local ethnic minorities. Luckily, it was a fine day for us, but you did have to keep an eye on the clouds and spot the moment they were out of the way for a nice photo. Food options here are very limited. Bring snacks and drink. The highest peak is around 18,000 feet. You and many others start at the bottom, get a 10-minute gondola ride up. It's 2,300 metres above sea level at the top. Some people carried oxygen canisters. Perhaps they had bought them in the town, as up here there are 3 times the price. However, I didn't notice any difference, and people young and old seemed to be fine. I was there in April. Hearing that it can be cold any time of the year, I did have trousers, shirt, sweatshirt and a light rain jacket. I didn't need the jacket, and the sweatshirt was only on briefly. But be prepared. I think I was just there on a good day. I can see it getting very cold any time. The foreground here is Yak Meadow. There's a loop walk, 2 to 3 kilometres, an easy walk, and you have plenty of time to do this. The boardwalk can be a bit uneven, so take care if it's wet. There were many couples here who had rented Western wedding outfits and a photographer. They were also happy to pose for us. I'm told that they weren't married, it was just the thing to do when you were engaged or perhaps in a serious relationship. Some nice woodlands. It was called Yak Meadow, but I saw only cows. After the loop walk, there was a nearby lake where you could sit on a yak for a fee, of course. I was surprised how many people did this. It's quite tall. The stall gets taken away for the photos, but you will need that to get on. In the same area, there's a waterfall. I used my built-in ND filter option on the camera for a long exposure smooth look. The next day, there was an optional trip to Tiger Leaping Gorge. It was 550 yuan, around 133 New Zealand dollars. It was either this trip or have a day to yourself in Lijiang. We all did this trip. It was an hour and a half to 2 hours to get there, and these were some yak statues that were at a toilet stop on the way. There was a tree with an overhanging branch nearby, so I tried for an artistic shot. Some typical countryside seen along the way. At the gorge, there's a top bit, the way down, and the bottom bit. At the top, there's a ticket office, a few shops, and the bus stop, and toilets. To get down, you can walk the 800 steps, or for 70 yuan, around 15 New Zealand dollars, you can get an escalator ticket. It's actually 4 individual escalators zigzagging down. Each of the escalators is lit up and has a different decorative theme. They were great. I was impressed with 3 of the 4. This is the blue one. And the red one. And the wavy one. Now, please don't go the wrong way on the escalators because retrograde is prohibited. This is the rock the tiger leapt on to escape from the hunter in the legend. Note the lookout on the left. I did a double exposure to put the tiger on the rock. And this is the view to the right. You can't get to the other side, and it looks like some construction is going on. Those steps and paths are for the really serious multi-day trekkers, not for us day trippers. Now we're still in Lijiang. Now day 13, we went to the Black Dragon Pool Park, dating from 1737. There were lovely bridges, pavilions, and traditional Nazi architecture. Nice reflection sometimes. Picnic time. I like how the map was done within the stone here. Nice curvy roofs. Don't forget to look up. Some nice flowers and blossoms too. And now we left Lijiang to head to Dali.